Hey guys, um, like I promised in my last video, I wouldn't make you wait too long for this one. So, I don't talk too much about myself in these videos or what's currently going on with me. Definitely isn't a diary style video, but my Yankees lost today on opening day, so I was pretty upset about that. I figured I would take my mind off it, make you guys another video. So, somebody asked me recently about what they should do over the summer before starting law school, and what recommendations do I have for things that they can do to get prepared and just be more ready on the day that they start. So I figured, I had a few ideas that came to mind of things that, looking back, I wish I had done over that summer. Um, they were sort of hinting to me that they were looking to try and start learning the law in advance and like reading cases and learning the doctrine before they even got there so that they can get a leg up. And I'll tell you right now from the very beginning, that's not going to be on this list. That's not something I recommend. It's something that I see as actually counterproductive if you were to do that before you started law school. But I'll get to that. I'll make that the last thing I cover in this video. First of all, I want to go through a few of the things that I think would be beneficial to do before you actually start law school, that you can do over the summer, and that I think would give you at least some kind of advantage when you come into law school. You want any advantage you can get. So even the little things, if you do enough of them, they'll build up to give you a solid leg up on your classmates. Now, some of these things you might not see immediately why this would give you the advantage, or it might be a little bit further down the line. But again, it's all about the little things because they do build up over time. Number one, I think it's a good idea to have your resume all spruced up and ready by the time you get to law school. Not much is going to change in between the time when you actually start law school and when you start applying to jobs. Now, about jobs, you're going to start applying to jobs for your 1L summer, the summer after your 1L year. You're going to start applying to those in the middle of your 1L year. Now, if you want to apply to some of the bigger law firms or to federal judges, you're going to have to start sending in those applications right around December 1st. That's usually the time when people start sending these things out in mass. Now, December 1st also happens to be right around the time you're going to be studying for finals and doing your final papers for your legal writing class. So lots of things are going to be crashing down on you all at one time, and it's just going to be a crazy time of the semester. So I remember having to start formatting my resume and getting things together and typing up cover letters. That was a huge time waste when I should have been studying for finals. So one thing I wish I had done was make sure I have my resume all neat, all ready to go before the semester even starts. Nothing's going to change. If you join a student group, sure, you can throw that on there. But the general template and, with all the information that you would want these firms and judges and public interest organizations, all the information you would want them to know, have that resume ready. But if you can work on that and get that ready over the course of the summer, that would be a good idea. Also, I think it's good to maybe make some cover letter templates. Again, it doesn't have to be specific for the employers are looking to work for. Just a general idea. The kinds of the kinds of jobs people tend to have over their 1L summer. It's usually something like a public interest organization, judicial internship, working for a law firm, or being a research assistant for one of your professors. Those are some of the main things that people do. So if you think to yourself, I could see myself working for a public interest organization or a small law firm my first summer, make a cover letter template that you think would be slightly tailored to one of those kinds of positions. Again, it doesn't have to be concrete, but just to have some kind of template there, because you don't want to be just starting from scratch on right around December 1st, because there's just too many things going on, and writing up a cover letter should not be something that you do in one night. It's a slow and steady process. So if you can do some of that process over the course of the summer, it'll really help you. Just on a totally different matter, on a lot of your exams, it's just sort of a word mashing kind of exam. You'll have 4 hours, and a lot of the exams don't even have a word limit on it. So it's as many ideas as you can get down on that page. The more the better. The more things you see, obviously making sure that those things are actually pertinent and applicable to the exam. But I tend to see that the people who type the most, it's because they have the most to say, because they have the most analysis. And usually on these exams, you're not graded on a right or a wrong kind of basis. They're just sort of looking for things that are good legal arguments, and they'll sort of give you checks as they see good legal arguments. So the more good legal arguments you can put out, usually the better. Now, certain things they might not give any credit for, but you'd never know when a clever argument that you see and put on there can actually get you some extra points. So I think it's a good idea to try and improve your typing speed. If you're not a good typer now, spend that summer doing some kind of typing course or practice so you can type with both hands really cleanly and really quickly. If you do have like typing errors and typos in your exams, they don't really care because they know you have to be typing super fast and just button mashing for 3-4 hours. But the faster you can type, the better. You don't If you're a very slow typer, it's really going to hurt you on that exam. So definitely something to if you can, try and improve your typing speed as best as possible. I think it's a good idea to get yourself organized and prioritized. When you start law school, it's very important that you have your priorities straight, that you keep everything in order and you keep a good schedule. If you're the kind of person who just sort of does everything last minute and you procrastinate and you're sort of messy and things are all over the place, you really want to work on that because you can't just flip a switch and the minute you start law school you can keep a tight schedule and keep everything organized and straight in your mind. So spend the summer making sure that you get everything in order and you just sort of get in a good habit of being organized and being prioritized because law school it's like if you fall behind in that race and you start falling behind because you're not totally organized and you're procrastinating too much, it's only going to hurt you and you're going to be behind all the semester. You'll never be able to make up that progress. So it's something to definitely try and do over the summer beforehand. Um, I think it's a good idea to learn about law school exams and what are they like. They won't really tell you all that much about the exam during school. I mentioned this in the exam video. Your exam is 100% of your grade in almost every school and almost every class. And that exam is very different from any exam you'll have ever taken in undergraduate. So it would be greatly to your benefit to learn about what those exams are like as far in advance as you possibly can. Now, every professor's exam is going to be different. Of course, you want to go to each professor individually and find out what that professor wants. But the general structure of how an exam works and the kind of strategies you want to apply, those really work across the board as a general matter. So the internet's a beautiful thing. If you type in learn more about law school exams or how to take a law school exam, read the articles that you find, read the commentary and the student advice that you can find. That's something that will give you a leg up on your classmates because so many of your classmates are going to treat it like an undergraduate exam. And again, I mentioned this all in my exam video. It's one of the earlier videos I put up, but it's all about application of the law that you learn, not just regurgitation of it. So there's a good book that I read called Getting to Maybe. Now this book it's a little bit much to somebody who hasn't even started law school yet. So maybe just skim the early chapters sometime over the summer, and it'll give you an idea of sort of the larger picture of what you're looking for and what you're trying to do, because your focus should always be on the exam. Don't worry about class on any given day. If you're not 100% prepared, almost no class grades you on participation. It doesn't matter how good you sound in class. Worry about that exam. So that book I found pretty helpful. It's something that you would want to skim over the summer just a little bit, maybe just the first few chapters, and then during the semester, maybe during Thanksgiving break, it's something that you can read, actually go through, and it'll make a lot more sense. You say, okay, now I understand what I was reading the first time, and now I see how I can apply it a month from now in finals. Something else that I found helpful, that this is one of those things that it's sort of hit or miss, and maybe some other current students would disagree about this, but I think it's a good idea to try and network with alums of your school, because the hiring situation in a lot of schools is not, it's not great. The legal hiring market, it's difficult, it's rough. The more people you know and the more connections you have, the better. And you'd be amazed how friendly and helpful a lot of the alums of the various schools are. So if you wrote an email to an alum of the school that you will be attending over the summer, and you said, I would love to hear more about your experience. I'm so excited to go there. What professors do you recommend? Assuming that this is a young alum, say what professors do you recommend? What student groups were you a member of? What tips do you have for doing well? Or you can ask them about the kind of law that they practice. Say maybe you're interested in going into that area, and I guarantee you that a good amount will be happy to make a phone call to you and chat about it for a while. And if you can keep in touch with a few of these connections, you have no idea how much it can help you. Maybe, just maybe, when you're applying to these 1L positions, they'll give you a lead or they'll put in a good word. Or when you are, a 2L going into OCI, you can drop their name at the interviews, or you can have them put you in touch, or maybe they'll pass along your resume to somebody else. You never know. So the more connections that you can make and the more networking that you can do, again, you're not asking them for a job straight up. You're just trying to make a connection with them. Essentially just getting their information so you can keep in touch and let them know. Some of them will be a little more receptive to that. Some of them will be a little more cold to it. It's hit or miss, as I said, but I feel like the more connections you have, and the more names you get in the proverbial Rolodex, it can never hurt. Something else that's important is, and this one's essential. I don't think anybody would argue with this, but I think it's important that you relax a good amount during the summer before law school. Law school is very much of a marathon, and you need to have your mind clear. I would do some fun things, clear your mind, and do some reflection. Make sure you understand, why you're going to law school, what you expect to get out of it. Take some time to stop and think about that. Because if you go in blind and not really knowing why you're there or what you're really looking to get out of this, you're not going to be as successful and you're not going to be as driven because you don't know really what you're working toward. So make sure you know why you're there before you actually put down the deposit, before you actually, especially before you end up sitting there in that first class on that first day. Now, sort of looping back to what I said at the beginning, a few people ask me, is it a good idea to read some supplement books? That's another thing I discussed in one of my earlier videos, and maybe read some of the cases, things like that. And I think that's a very bad idea. It's not something you want to do. Aside from the fact that it takes away time from all the other things that I think would be helpful, I'll list out a few of the negatives that come to mind. One was, you're not really learning torts in general. You're not learning contracts in general. You're learning Professor so-and-so's torts and his view and take on torts. You're learning Professor so-and-so's view on contracts and his, approach to contracts. And every professor is different in that way. There's no general topic that you're going to be learning that you can just learn from a book and then just apply it on that professor's exam, because the exam is not just based on that book. The exam is written by this professor with that professor's perspectives in mind. So, first of all, it's not going to be the way that the professor wants it tailored to his mindset and attitude. So you would start at a disadvantage just from that, and you'd have to, sort of backtrack and erase some of the things that conflict with the professor, whereas everybody else in your class would be clean slates, able to follow right along with the professor. So you would actually have to do some erasing before you could even start following along with him. A lot of the information really wouldn't even make sense out of context. If you picked up a civil procedure case book and you tried to start reading some of those cases, it's not going to make any sense. You need to have that kind of information introduced to you. Each thing builds upon the next, and you start to understand it as a large web of concepts. And it's very difficult to just start on your own and say, okay, here's step one, and I'll build into step two. It doesn't really work that way. There are some concepts that are pretty basic, something like what are the elements of negligence, or what are, what's acceptance of a contract, what constitutes acceptance. But learning those things is not really going to help you. And the reason is, any advantage that you would have from knowing those very basic things on the first day of class, that advantage would be gone, totally erased by the time the exam comes around, because by the exam time, everyone will be on equal footing. Everyone will know all those things. So your advantage would have been there on day one, when you can, raise your hand and say, oh, I know what the elements of negligence are, show your classmates how brilliant you are and how well prepared you are, and maybe you'll intimidate them a little bit, but by exam time, they're going to know the exact same thing, and you're only graded on the last day, not on the first day. So I think it's just a waste of time. So I could think of more reasons if I tried, but I think that's enough to hopefully convince you guys that that's not something you should be doing over the summer. So, that's just a little summary of the things that I think would be helpful. If you have any other suggestions or questions of things that you're thinking about doing over the summer, definitely let me know. It's right around time to be selecting schools, so good luck to those of you who are just about to put down those deposits. Write me with any messages or questions or comments. I'm happy to get back to you. And again, I won't be long before the next video, so take care, and I'll see you guys soon.